Worship is really getting into close quarters with God, face to face with God. And Jesus defined it in a way when he says, the time is coming when the true worshipers shall worship the Father in spirit and in truth. For the Father seeks such to worship. So worshiping cannot be in the flesh. It has to be in the spirit. And that's what we have to make sure that we put aside everything else when we're worshiping God. We ought not to be distracted by any externalities. We got to make sure we lock ourselves in with God and we worship, because He is looking for those who are worshiping in spirit and in truth. That's what it means to me. It's very, very powerful. In fact, it is perhaps one of the most powerful practices in the Christian walk. Worship. Beautiful worship. Fantastic. Going beyond Tehillah. Men basically are born worshippers, because the Zakar man is defined by his worship and by sexuality. The scripture says, and He made them male and female. The word there in Genesis chapter 1 and verse 27 is Zakar. And Zakar means sharp male organ. It also means competent to worship. So that the definition of the male is dual. And it's very, very important that a man understands who he is, what he has available to him. It's not difficult for a man to worship because he was born to worship. And so all a man has to do is to make sure that he is not guided by his phallic passions, but he's guided by his worship, because his worship is going to temper the sexuality. Well balanced. Go for it, men. Prophecy is a very, very important aspect of our lives. In fact, the scripture says in the last days, I'm going to pour my spirit upon all flesh, and your sons and daughters shall prophesy. Your sons and daughters shall prophesy. Very important that we are able to speak from the heart of God. Prophecy is simply speaking for God, or speaking on behalf of God, or standing before God and speaking his mind to an individual or to a situation or to various circumstances. Prophecy doesn't have to be to an individual necessarily, but to geographical regions. You can prophesy to a nation, prophesy to an area, prophesy to a home, prophesy, speaking the mind of God. And once you speak the mind of God, whatever you say will come to pass. That's prophecy. Zakar, we're excited about that because I believe God has brought into focus a revelation that will revolutionize the lives of men. The Zakar man is the original man. When I say original, I mean the original understanding of who the man is. Because these days people have lost their way. Men have lost their way basically because they have neglected the worship dimension of their lives. As a result, they're led by their phallic passions. And all kinds of things are happening in the world because men have allowed themselves to be led by the phallic passions rather than the worship. The Zakar man returns to his worship. The Zakar man returns to his roots, the roots of the Zakar man. The thing that tempers and qualifies his sexuality is his worship. And you can see why men are having such a hard time around the world, because of the lack of worship. Once worship is not there, the man is one-sided. He's basically imbalanced, and like a car going on the highway, he's running on two wheels, and eventually he's going to crash. Many men are crashing all over the world because of a lack of worship. And the call is for all men to rise up and become true Zakar men. Men that are competent to worship. And of course, with your sexuality, you exhibit a high potency of manhood when you can worship and at the same time, of course, exhibit the ability that God's given to you to multiply, replenish, and fill the earth. I want to encourage you to come to this event, this very, very great event. I think it's quite commendable of Samuel Dyer and the team to be focusing on worship as men, because that's the bottom line, that's the roots of advancement. of the human race, of the human family, of society. But I want to endorse this very, very powerful idea, and we're looking forward to a great time there at Napa. Come out and support this event.